This is the Ruckus and the Menace.
Challenge accepted. No.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games!
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
There you go. There it is.
There's a winner.
Look at that.
Back.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 169. Nice. I am Ruckus, always call someone Ruckus.
And I am Spinus the Menace, and today's podcast episode is brought to you by the word tiebreaker.
Nice.
A little bit of housekeeping updates here, as there will be no episodes of Viva Las Raiders or This One's for Sam this week, as we both advanced past the wild card weekend.
AKA we don't suck at the game.
Oh man, and I actually was just looking at the view total for This One's for Sam and Viva Las Raiders from this past week, and I blew up.
Yes, you did.
But there has been a lot of back and forth between Ruckus and I, and who kind of has an episode that blows up, or we both have an episode that gets a good amount of traction. And we are thankful for you guys for it. And Ruckus, I'd say we get right down to it, and the tumbleweed's rolling. It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Give me a second. Yay, the barely audible wah wah wah. Alright, here is the good, bad, and ugly. What is the good this week, Spinnis?
And then our classic Italian-style spaghetti western. The good this week is that the NFL regular season's conclusion brought some major fireworks. And here's why. This episode is brought to you by the word tiebreaker. There were multiple tiebreakers that decided a lot of positioning. The Denver Broncos clinched home field advantage over the New England Patriots based on best win percentage in common games. The Houston Texans have the tiebreaker over Buffalo because they beat them head-to-head. The Bears win a tiebreaker over Philadelphia because of head-to-head. Carolina, in the winning of the NFC South by sitting on the bench, wins a tiebreaker over Atlanta and Tampa Bay, which was a three-way tie for the NFC South lead. One based on head-to-head percentage between them and the Rams won a tiebreaker over San Francisco to get the 5 seed because of best win percentage in common games. So there were a lot of tiebreakers that decided major playoff seeding positioning. But it wasn't just that. We're going to break down some of these games here just a little bit later in the high heat to further elaborate this point. And the not so good this week, Ruckus.
What's bad this week is offensive pass interference calls are getting even more confusing to determine what it really is.
Oh, yeah. The definition of a catch has already been convoluted. What's becoming even more convoluted over the last couple of weeks, in that we're not understanding and comprehending this, is now the offensive pass interference. rules about picks and causing offensive pass interference. What constitutes a push off? What constitutes this? What constitutes that? As Carolina had a big play nullified by a 50-50 offensive pass interference call that went against them, that in commentary, Dan Orlovsky even said, oh, I wouldn't have thrown the flag there. So, I mean, it's becoming the NFL rules are becoming much more difficult to interpret. And that is also something that is not so good for this past week. And the ugly this week.
I think so. For me, the downright ugly is Texas Tech quarterback Braden Swordsby's contract for transferring to Texas Tech for pennies.
Yeah, just a single year.
Yeah, a single year, but this makes it larger than the Browns' Shadir Sanders full 4-year contract by $400,000. Hashtag. There's no words that really comprehend what the NIL is yet, but the early sign to let's not rely on NIL deals to get players to go places based off of just a college. Like for colleges, it sucks more because they have a certain budget, and just because the NIL wants to fund something doesn't mean that they need it due to a college's anticipation for money. They want to be serious about it, and the problem is not a lot of college teams are actually serious about it. They're just hoping that they get some money out of it, and it's not get money. Um, that's a Shane Gillis reference there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that is pretty asinine for the NFL to not increase their budget, especially if they want to uh, take a bigger peek out of it rather than the NIL, because the NIL right now is supposed to be towards college athletes and whatnot, and right now is kind of risque, because like, yeah, you could do a lower salary for someone that might not be as capable, but uh wasn't the whole point to add more money to college so that it competes better with the NFL rather than college trying to compete? But at the same time, like, college is still having to compete because a lot of programs don't have the money.
Oh, and NIL, the name, image, likeness deals allow and permit players to be marketable as college athletes. I have gotten to talk to via text message, because he was all the way out in Hawaii, to a friend and athlete I covered, Saya. Shout out to you, Saya. Much love, Oosh. But I am going to mention some things in this conversation that we had about a month ago to kind of say there's some ways where the NIL has been good. I mean, it's given him opportunity. It's been giving him opportunities around the state of Hawaii. But he also has said, however, when much is given, much is expected. So it puts pressure on a lot of guys who aren't able to handle it well. But then, really, when we were talking about the portal and also reasons of people transferring simply because of NIL, this being, I think, a situation like this, because I believe Brendan Sorsby was previously the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bearcats and has now transferred to Texas Tech to pick up this contract. And this contract evaluates him to making more money than an NFL 5th round pick. And this is a NFL 5th round pick for his entire contract. Yes, this has gotten out of control. But it also really is running into a lot of that NIL and the transfer portal in both instances of degrees, and running NIL as a reasoning to transfer as something that is being misused and, for lack of a better term, abused. Like I am in a stance that I told Saya this. I said I am more for players using the transfer portal to either step up in competition as an athlete, step down if the level is too much, finding a better fit academically or athletically, or more situations where home life happens. I think the portal being used to solely have it be about money, though it is not wrong to have it, is the reason why, as the sole reason for a transfer, is not what it should be used for. And that,
I agree.
and I told Saya that stance verbatim. And now and with these transfers, they've eliminated the sit out period. They've done a bunch of different things to kind of make it easier to move and allow the players to market themselves, which it almost causes a flight risk, in a sense of it becomes that money is the only reason why a school is going to get them. It's turning college football and basketball and all these other athletics into professional, like into basically a different version of the pros, except they're getting an education on top of it. That is, if they're even really properly taking advantage of the educational benefits. That is if they choose to educate. But this is also leading into players wanting to stay longer in college, which in certain aspects, yes, it helps. But at the same time, you're running into 24, 25, 26-year-old players in the NFL draft pool. Yes, some of this is due to COVID. And some of these players on the late stretches of the COVID stuff, that's all going to kind of start to go away. But you still see some other people going about it. I think Trinidad Chambliss is one that I think he's wanting to stay at Ole Miss if the NCAA okays a waiver. And he was a D2 quarterback that transferred up, but he's currently 23. He's currently 23 and could very well play at 24 in college. So he becomes a 25-year-old quarterback in the NFL.
It's almost like Stetson Bennett in a sense with Georgia.
Or Bo Nix. When you really come to think of it.
What age was Bo Nix in the NFL his rookie season?
Bo Nix will turn 26 just after the season ends. So he was a 24-year-old quarterback.
Interesting. Okay.
Or a 23, 24-year-old quarterback. This is the same thing.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, it's basically a COVID. He was a COVID because he was in college during the COVID time period.
Okay, let's keep going.
Yep. But I think now that we're talking about college football, I think we properly segue into the college football playoff. And we get to recap the quarterfinals and give some thoughts on some end results. The first game on New Year's Eve, Miami, the U, stunning Ohio State, 24-14.
Let Michael Irvin get his belt and smack it at a trash can, whatever the trash can is.
That Michael Irvin's excitement on the Pat McAfee broadcast was, it's over the top, but it's no surprise for the playmaker. It does not surprise me at all. But it was still a good thing to actually watch. And then we moved to the transition to the beginning of 2026 on New Year's Day. Oregon beats Texas Tech 23 Krispy Kreme. And this doesn't surprise me. Texas Tech, I'm going to say the Big 12 is a lesser conference in college football. And this portal has really, especially when it comes to football, it's really narrowed the sense of where the dominant conferences are. And it is either you're in the Big 10, you're in the ACC, you're in the SEC, or you ain't making it far. And yes, Texas Tech having a 4 seed as a member of the Big 12, yeah, that really shouldn't have flown. The next game is Indiana putting the belt to the Crimson Tide, beating Alabama 38-3. And this is the first time that a team that has had a bye in the college football playoff first round has won a game. Indiana is the 1-1-7, as we will mention the 7th loss here just a little bit later. Your thoughts on that?
Indiana sees the opportunity against Alabama. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza is for real. He very well can be a number 1 overall pick if the Raiders so choose. And I can tell you that Kurt Signetti is an incredible coach. Has built up this Indiana Hoosiers program from nothing and has turned them into something. And I'm really liking him as a coach. He was the previous coach at James Madison as a rising power there. Kind of worked his way up, was a receivers coach from 07 to 11. So he kind of caught, I think, a very early end of statement. He was a quarterback for WVU, which makes him an appeal, interesting for me because he's WVU.
Yep.
But he's brought this Indiana program up this ranking the way they have in 2 seasons. And that is huge. I wouldn't be surprised if some NFL teams start giving him a look. Start giving at least a look here within the next few weeks as coaching hires come along. And then I am shocked we did not do a film room pick because I think you would have picked the dogs in this and I would have told you hotty toddy. Ole Miss defeating Georgia 39-34. And for me, who's kind of been rooting for Ole Miss in this college football playoff, I love it.
And I'd like more of it, but I tried so hard and it didn't make it far because I liked it. I loved it. I wanted more of it. And Georgia, honestly, I followed because of FPS Russia from the era where he was able to shoot guns and also smoke a little bit of weed, but also kick ass and dick names. Like, he was a big phenomenon, and it was more around the area that Black Ops 2 came about, and he was an icon. Like, my guy would shoot AA-12s in his farmland and then not get caught with the ganja, but here we are now, and um he is definitely a prisoner as far as we're aware in the legal records, and I think even though he is a felon, he should be pardoned because he did a little oopsie, but at the same time, he is repented and he has done the way of the Lord. So,
Where are you going with this?
FPS Russia needs to be pardoned. I'm saying it right here on this podcast. Anyways, let's
And
move
what
on.
does this have to do with Ole Miss and Georgia?
FPS Russia loves UGA. Go
Oh.
dogs.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a random side note, but I am actually
saying.
really excited. I'm really excited for Ole Miss. And we will get to predict those games here in just a bit. But first, we're going to continue the high. Actually, you know what? We're going to split up the film room at this point. I'm going to make a pivot, and we're going to play the 5-pointers now, and then sidebar back into the NFL as in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. It is Oregon and Indiana. Number 5 versus number 1.
I picked Indiana.
I also am going with the Hoosiers to find their way to Miami for the national title. And then in the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona, Ole Miss versus the U.
Miami, get the belt out and just start whacking shit with trash cans and whatnot, or whatever you can without assaulting someone else. Michael Irvin.
There will be no home game for the U next week on Martin Luther King Day. Actually, in 2 weeks on Martin Luther King Day, because it will be hotty toddy going in. I am taking the Rebels and Ole Miss.
Boo! Boo! Boo!
I am taking Ole Miss. I want to see that team sticking to Lane Kiffin so bad. And that would be the step it would take just to get onto the doorstep to rub it in Lane Kiffin's face saying, ha ha, you left something incredible behind.
We'll see. Anyways, let's keep going.
Yep, and now we will move on to the NFL, where we have Week 18's recap and the playoff preview. And we talked about the NFC South already as Tampa Bay, though they defeated Carolina 16-14 on Saturday.
They got fucked over anyways.
Yep, relying on outside help was ultimately going to be their downfall because Atlanta defeated New Orleans 19-17 on Sunday afternoon. Another show of complete display that I wouldn't be surprised if there was an opportunity to see it again. The Seahawks and 49ers having a good defensive football game. Though the 12th man, the team with 12 retired, wins 13-3. They're going to be formidable playoff contenders, both sides.
Well,
Seattle wins.
Seattle had more healthy people compared to the 49ers anyway. So
I agree. But I think to hold that Seattle offense as good as they've been to 13 points, that still is a testament for the 49ers and that they're still legit.
Yeah.
Seattle won by dominating the time of possession, keeping a 49er offense that can work it out well. Earned home field. And Christian McCaffrey had a really bad drop, but I think that Seattle linebacker who made that pick kind of had a little bit of a, hey, look what I found moment. And I think this makes and solidifies the case that Mike Macdonald will be the coach of the year this year. This game here, I think, solidified that case. The only ones that I could see potentially topping him would be Sean Payton and Mike Vrabel, but I think this is deserved for Mike Macdonald. The Texans defeat the Colts 38-30. Granted that they conceded the fact that Jacksonville was going to win the division by beating the Titans 41-7, but securing a fifth seed was just as important. And even with them resting key players, Houston is deep. They are deep and they are scary.
Their defense can tear someone's team into a new you-know-what. And honestly, I think the Houston's have what it takes, but let's be honest. Let's see how the defense reacts at the start of a playoff game. But at the same time, let's be honest. Their defense is scary as hell. If you thought the Eagles were bad or were the best against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, imagine what it's like now with the Texans in the future of 2026.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. The Eagles still have a championship level defense. Don't get that twisted.
Okay. Let's see it on the field.
I said that the Eagles still have a championship level defense. Is it going to show out like it could be? Is it going to show out like it could be? Like it would have had they played this game proper?
Let's see what happens in 3 weeks.
Oh, I mean, this is still assuming that the Eagles get there, but I think it's going to be the offense that will hold the Eagles back. Is what I'm saying. The Eagles are
lucky for you. 3 weeks equals a month in February, so there you go.
I mean, 3 weeks 3 weeks of football is saying that the Eagles get all the way to the NFC Championship game, which is not an impossibility, though the road is a lot more difficult. It's more difficult than it looks. And here's why. Two teams that absolutely did not have 10 toes down and stand on business trying to secure a 2 seed. The Lions defeated the Bears 19-16. And the Commanders, my Commanders, come out of this season with a victory, defeating the Eagles 24-17. Neither team really looked like they wanted to. I think Sirianni was resting starters to try and keep everybody fresh. It really was like the Bears won in tiebreakers, but the Bears came up short when it mattered most. It's like neither team really wanted the 2 seed. It's like, do we really want to play a second home game?
I think once the Chiefs are out of the NFL playoffs, no one gives a shit because they're so used to the Chiefs being in the playoff picture. And now that that's happening and all these other teams are also having... Listen! I am saying that not only are the Chiefs out of the playoffs, but the Ravens are out. You don't have the Lions out there. You don't have the Commanders out there. Like, you would think the Commanders, besides the Jane Daniels injuries, they would find a way. But
Bro,
also,
I'm still watching.
But I'm not watching because I don't give a shit about these other teams that maybe have a chance. Like, okay, whatever. Like, live your fantasy land. Like, I think the Bears out of that fantasy land have a chance out of these other organizations, like the Broncos, like any other like team. Like, it's just all out to process. And I'm sorry if I just ranted like a Chiefs fan, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But now we actually get to talk about the Steelers and Ravens, and that finish, though. That finish was insane. And I'm going to say, let alone the last few minutes. From 3:49 to go. Actually, no, let's go through the entire fourth quarter.
Oh shit, there we go.
8:42 to go in the fourth. So after 3, Pittsburgh is up 13-10. Ravens get up the field in the fourth quarter. Lamar Jackson fires a 50-yard touchdown pass to Zay Flowers. 8:42 to go. Baltimore has a 17-13 lead. Pittsburgh responds. 3:49 to go in the fourth. Kenneth Gainwell, 2-yard touchdown. Pittsburgh now has a 20-17 lead. Zay Flowers, again, a 64-yard touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson. Baltimore has a 24-20 lead. 2:20 to go. Calvin Austin, a 26-yard touchdown pass from Aaron Rodgers. Pittsburgh has the lead, but Boswell gets his extra point blocked. So a field goal would win the game. Field goal wins it for Baltimore. .55 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. Boswell kicks the ball off, and the return goes all the way to the Baltimore 47. The Ravens are driving the ball up the field. Lamar Jackson completes with 21 seconds left a 26-yard pass to Isaiah Likely to get the ball to the Pittsburgh 24. Lamar Jackson kneels the ball, puts it on the center hash for Tyler Loop with 14 seconds left, and with 2 seconds left, Harbaugh calls the final timeout. So it's a 44-yard field goal, and the Baltimore Ravens lose this game in the most Buffalo Bills way possible. And you might want to close your ears, Buffalo fans, because Tyler Luke missed this kick wide right. And like I'm watching this lot, like there's maybe a small delay because of the streaming from whatever I had. But even with the slight delay, I'm watching this kick and I'm like, oh my God, he missed it. And
I
the
was
last
not
game of the NFL
surprised.
season. Oh, the last game of the NFL season, providing some of the best fireworks that you could have. As it was a winner-take-all game for the AFC North. And we didn't realize until a couple days later that the losing team would lose their head coach. But we'll get to that here a little later. We will now go to the film room once more, as we now get to pick the NFL wildcard games.
Yep.
And we are going to go in order. I do not have them written in order because I did not know what the order was going to be until the next day. So, at 4:30 on Saturday, the Los Angeles Rams take on the Carolina Panthers at Bank of America Stadium. Ruckus, who you got?
I think the Panthers are going to absolutely pounce on the Rams a little bit, but I just don't know at what cost. Maybe Bryce Young triumphantly gets a victory over the Rams, but we'll just see what happens. I'm not that optimistic at this point because I'm depressed as a Chiefs fan.
The Panthers have shown that they can beat anybody. And the Rams were no exception, as Bryce Young and the Panthers have already done this. However, it is very hard to beat a team twice in a row. And the Rams, I believe, will learn from their mistakes. I actually am going to take the Rams in this one as well. And then at 8 o'clock on Amazon Prime Video, the Pack versus the Bears, round 3.
I'm gonna
Who's
pick
winning this fight?
Bears. I'm picking the Bears. A little biased there, but you know.
I think the Bears are healthier. So I'm going to take the Bears as well.
Poser. Just kidding.
What
I
did
don't
you
care.
call me?
Poser. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. And then Sunday at 1 o'clock on CBS, the Bills are taking on the Jaguars.
I'm hoping to God that the Bills beat the Jaguars. Please, just do something about that franchise. And if you guys lose, I'm not sorry for you. But at the same time, I am a little bit.
As much as I would love to yell out the words, Duval, in this particular case of predicting the Jaguars to win, unfortunately, I cannot do that this week, as I am going to take the Buffalo Bills as well to be on the safe side. The next game that we have is at 4:30 on Fox. The 49ers are taking on the Eagles. Who we got?
I am hoping that the Eagles win because let's see what their defense is like against 49ers offense. And if the Eagles beat them, that proves that they could probably go for a back-to-back championship for their team. But we'll just see what happens.
I think the Eagles are a championship team. What I do not believe is that I do not believe that the Eagles are going to necessarily be fully there whenever it all comes down to it. However, in this case, I believe that the Eagles will advance because San Francisco is not as healthy. And then on prime time on NBC, Chargers and Patriots fans will be waiting all day for Sunday night as those two teams will be playing each other in a 2-versus-7 matchup. Ruckus, what do you got?
I think it's going to be the Patriots because they do have a advantage offensively over the Chargers. Like, yes, the Chargers have Keenan Allen, but let's be honest. If Drake May can outstand the Chargers, then it's just more pain for the Chargers as far as the fact that they got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all. And you could probably guess from the lyrics after that that
My
it didn't
favorite
even matter. Patriots.
my favorite take from a YouTuber, shout out Benchwarmer Brand, because he basically turned Drake May into basically a Pokemon. Because most Pokemon will only be able to say their own name. And he's just like, Drake May. Drake May. Drake May. And who am I going to go with as far as winning this, even though it's going to be his debut playoff game? Drake May. I'm taking the Patriots. And then on Monday Night Football, the Texans and the Steelers. Will the undefeated streak of Mike Tomlin on Monday Night Football at home fall here? Who you got, Ruckus?
It was between the Steelers and Texans.
This is the Steelers and the Texans. Yep.
Honestly, I think the Texans probably have a better time, but it's still going to be very, 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 very close to the fact that if we don't get this, or if the Texans don't get it, it could look bad for D'Amico Ryans, but also look even horrible for Mike Tomlin, which he always looks like Cash Patel nowadays when it comes to his face and his facial features. Meaning he always looks like he's about to shit himself.
I'm going to say this. I believe that streak will fall. And I'm going to say this. The only way that Pittsburgh, I think, wins this game is if Mike Tomlin still has some luck inside of that horseshoe that is currently in his back pocket. And I'm sorry, the Pittsburgh Steelers should have turned into a pumpkin. Clock strike midnight here, Cinderella. You're not advancing.
Can we
taking
translate that into a family-friendly version of ayahuasca?
Wait, what I was saying there?
Yes.
I'm
messing around.
I was pulling
It's okay. It's
I was
okay.
pulling
We
it.
can
I was
stop.
pulling
We
a
can-
Cinderella reference. I was
I
pulling a
know.
Cinderella reference, which
I know what
is
you were
simply
doing.
a family-friendly reference.
You don't have to explain that. I know. I know
All
pop
right.
culture, goddammit.
Yep, and now we can move on to our stud and dud of the week. Ruckus, what we got?
You know what's sad about the NFL? Not only as a Chiefs fan, but as any other fan that gave a shit about 8 years ago when the Chiefs were doing really well, but also the Lions were getting out of a rut on just their whole team in general. Like they they hadn't been to the dance, aka the playoffs, for like years, and they were mocked for years losing on Thanksgiving and other holiday seasons. You know how depressing it has to be a Detroit Lions fan? Imagine being a Chiefs fan, but like more depressed because it's Michigan and Detroit is not a good area. I mean, the same can be said about KCK and KCMO, but it's just different areas, man. Independence has it pretty rough with meth and whatnot, but come on now. But here's the bottom line. If the Jets can suck so bad that the last time they were in the playoffs was like 2008 or some shit, like, obviously nobody cares at this point. But the Jets are trying to care so much that they did it so bad against all odds. They're like, okay, Justin Fields, sounds like a good option to try to fix this offense around. Uh, sure, whatever. But even then, it didn't matter because the Jets defense, the thing that carries everything else, because New York has all the money and has a higher draft picks because they fucking suck, means the Jets defense, after trading for Sauce Gardner
No,
from
traded
the
away
Colts.
Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I was getting to that. The Jets traded Sauce Gardner to the Colts, and the Colts did absolutely nothing later, but we'll talk about that another time. The Jets defense did absolutely nothing. As far as my stud, I'm gonna say Michael Irvin with his happiness as the Hurricane alumni, just going ham and just not giving a shit. Like, he's just living his best life, and I love it for that. Like, to be honest, he's like a cartoon. Just seeing him go crazy around there and like beat down trash cans and be like in a prone position like in Call of Duty, just like seeing what happens with the play and just being so just charismatic is amazing for Irvin. And also, the longest yard. Here comes the boom. Spennis, go ahead.
I'm I'm gonna add on to your Jets thing. You have a defensive-minded coach who was a former NFL defensive back,
Who?
Aaron Glenn,
What?
led a defense
How?
that produced
Why?
absolutely
What?
0 interceptions.
What? I can't hear you with the fact that I'm Woody or whatever the fuck his name is.
You're not you weren't necessarily picking up what I was putting down there.
What? I can't hear you over the sound of interceptions not being made.
That was exactly what I was talking about. Is that they were not able to force any interceptions whatsoever.
I feel like
So
the
that
Jets.
Jets secondary.
I feel like the Jets defense could have done better if the Jets defense was the Kansas City defense. I feel like the Jets would win more games. Ding.
Yeah, it's like the Jets secondary basically said, and what will we do now? Nothing. I'm not going to get an interception at all. Yeah, so every single turnover for the Jets was via a fumble. However, my dud is not the New York Jets. It actually is the Carolina Panthers. For not taking the replay of a down that they were permitted to take on an inadvertent whistle call. So what happened? Bryce Young's trying to throw a slip screen to Rico Dowdle. The pass somehow is slightly backwards. So it ends up becoming a fumble. So they have the interpretation that Dowdle picks up this ball, but Dowdle thinks it's just a standard incomplete pass. So he doesn't really move out of it. However, the referees were saying the call on the field is a backward pass that went out of bounds. Rico Dowdle was in the middle of the field. And there was an inadvertent whistle that had advanced it. But the rules of an inadvertent whistle say you can either take the result of the play or you can choose to replay the down. Secure the bag. Replay the down. Dave Canales, you failed to take advantage of that. That's a lack of understanding the gamesmanship that you possibly could have had to be able to get yourself into a better position to make a play. But this was not the only thing that involved Hingle McCringleberry Rico Dowdle. As Dowdle fell on a flea flicker. There was an attempted flea flicker, but he slipped and fell. And the ball gets away from Bryce Young as he's trying to flip it back in a situation that didn't call for a flea flicker whatsoever. And it ended up with a fumble lost. So Carolina could have very well put themselves in a position to win that football game and made too many mental errors to not take advantage of it. They could have solved the NFC South once and for all and failed to do so. They won it by sitting on their butts at home. But my stud this week, Ruckus, you know how much I love seeing big men score touchdowns? Enough that my stud this week is a thick 6. As Texans defensive tackle Tommy Togiai sealed the 5th seed in the AFC for Houston in a 38-30 victory by scooping and scoring a fumbled play and showed some effort in doing so. I was impressed. Run, big boy, run! So, yes, I love seeing big sixes whenever they come in.
I honestly thought it was hilarious that out of all the things that the Colts try to do with the Houdinis and whatnot, they do the fancy play, and then all of a sudden the defense just takes over and just makes it even worse for the Colts.
And I will say, I think in defense of the Colts, I think the Colts would have been fine had the wheels not fallen off. They went till the wheels fell off. And the wheels fell off faster than what they thought they would. I think if the Colts were healthier, especially with certain players being healthier, I think we could be talking about the Colts as like a sleeper playoff team, but it was brutal getting it. It was brutal. I think the Colts probably would have, with losing enough games, the wheels fell off and they weren't able to keep them going.
Yeah.
And now we're actually going to move on to our color commentary, and we'll end on a couple of lighter notes here.
Yep.
Our last bit of hard sports side is talking about the Black Monday breakdown. This is our favorite. This is one of my notable times of the year in saying, oh, who are the coaches that are getting fired? And here are our coaching vacancies, and there are 7. The Tennessee Titans, as Brian Callahan was fired during the regular season. The Giants, Brian Dable fired during the regular season. Raheem Morris fired hours after picking up the win to go to 8-9 and finishing a 3-way tie for the NFC South. The Raiders, Pete Carroll fired on a Black Monday firing. The Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon was a Black Monday firing. The Browns, Kevin Stefanski fired. And now the Ravens, a post-Black Monday firing. And he is now parted ways from Baltimore just really about a couple hours ago. And some of our questions here are this. Was there a coach that was fired in this window that maybe shouldn't have been?
I think for me it might have been a crossfire or player versus enemy event that was just like, hey man, like we're friendlies, like in Arc Raiders, but instead um it was Kyler Murray versus Steve Gannon, and Steve Gannon kicked his ass.
You mean Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah, sure. Jonathan Gannon, yeah. We'll just go with that. That's my explanation. No other thing needed. I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
Oh, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, I've said this before, is the reason why the Cardinals have been held back for so long. I've mentioned this years ago, years before the podcast ever came into existence. Kyler Murray should have taken the baseball money as an Athletic. He should have taken the baseball money. Granted that it would not have been the short term, but he could have very well played his way up. He was a top draft pick, so he probably would be a major leaguer right now somewhere. But instead he chose to play football and maybe a little more Call of Duty than what he should have. And unfortunately, his Call of Duty was not being an effective quarterback on Sundays. However, that digression aside, I believe Raheem Morris, had done just enough to keep himself alive, coaching-wise. But I think Arthur Blank said, no, you're done.
Yeah. No shit, because they also fired the GM.
Yeah, I saw that as a possibility as well. Was there a coach in this that was not fired, but should have been?
Honestly, I feel like with mine, like, yeah, it could be Zach Taylor, but honestly, you would, at that point, fire the whole Cincinnati team because that whole motel has been shit-wrecked and is gone to the upside down and back and forth and back and forth and is still into some stranger things. And I don't know if Hopper and Joyce and the little kids, Lucas, Will, Mike, and 11, and whoever else, I don't think they could take him down as quickly as they did some other character, which I'm not going to spoil here because obviously people will get triggered if I talk about Stranger Things, even though maybe some people don't give a shit at this point because the seasons were put out very long at this point, and people are just sick and tired of the crap. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, Spanish, go on. I'm gonna rant more if I go.
I also am in agreement that Zach Taylor was not fired, but probably should have been. Second on this list probably was also Mike McDaniel, but Zach Taylor was the one who I really thought. I believe that Zach Taylor has lost that locker room.
I think it's just crazy how much the organization has done and then just obviously got away with not learning anything from it. They're just like, okay, now what?
The organization needs to readjust their roadmap, have their GPSs recalculated, and get back on track. I mean, has Joe Burrow been necessarily the healthiest quarterback in the NFL? No. But do I think Joe Burrow could benefit from a different head coach at the helm? Absolutely. I think Zach Taylor should have been fired.
What kind of calculator do we need to recalculate the NFL?
I don't know if you can necessarily find one powerful enough to recalculate the NFL because it's all going in all sorts of different directions.
Can it run Doom? Can it run Crisis? Can it run name
I
game
think there
here?
are some things that are in the state of the NFL that are in crisis. So, is it running crisis? No, crisis is running it.
Wait, so it's the whole saga, not just one? That's the sound of my partner in crime going faster than light.
I'm going to give you a Drew
and
Rosenhaus and say next question.
Okay, sounds
And the
good.
next question here is, of the teams that have a coaching vacancy open, which team do you feel would have the most attractive option? Which team, if you were looking at them, would you feel would be the most attractive job?
I think the most attractive job would probably be the Ravens because John Harbaugh finally got fired after many years of pretending to be good at his job. He eventually got kicked out of it, and that's the sick and honest truth of the Ravens. They are garbage, and Lamar Jackson is also kind of responsible for that, for his decision making, and you just kind of fucking let that out on the field. And yeah, I think it's gonna be most attractive for other teams because the Titans are trying to get Matt Nagy. I hope to God they get him, but uh, also there's other coaches out
You
there
don't
that
have to
could
worry
be.
about him. His contract is expired.
I don't give a shit. I'm not worried about Matt Nagy. I'm just saying, God forbid, because I don't think he's that great of a head coach, and he's proved it in Chicago, so here we are. But besides the point, I think the reason why I say the Ravens are a good coaching option is because that's a bigger deal than what the Tennessee Titans have versus and other teams that have just fired their uh coaches. Like the Falcons, sure, like someone that's actually more qualified, sure, but like for the Ravens, that could be like the next Jets experience, where they get some young, unknown like coach, and then apparently they just maybe do something, and then the Jets are just like, no, screw you, we're gonna do what we did last year, but opposite.
Okay. Here's the head coaching record for Matt Nagy's 4-year tenure as head coach of the Chicago Bears. His first year, he went 12-4. They won the NFC North, and he was coach of the year. So he's a one-time coach of the year, division champion. He made a second playoff appearance in 2020, and it was only a really 2-win dip that he was eventually fired because I think ultimately he lost the locker room. 34-33 was his overall record. 34-31 in the regular season. Both of those are over 500. So he's not awful. It's just he's not great. However, I had two attractive scenarios. I would say the number one most attractive for me out of these options is actually, ironically enough, the New York Giants. You have a young quarterback that, as long as you're able to kind of keep the hard nose in him a little bit under control, you've got some work with.
I agree.
The same will go along with the potential number 1 or 1A running back in Scadaboo.
I think it obviously sucks that not only Scadaboo was hurt, but also Neighbors was also hurt earlier.
Yeah,
like,
well, I was getting
bad
to
luck.
Neighbors. I was getting to Neighbors, and if he could be a good Neighbors and be healthy, and show that State Farm can really be there.
If they don't increase the rate of your plan due to them trying to get more money for their commercials that are still shitty. All right, I'll digress.
I know that I just mentioned State Farm and all of a sudden you were going along that route, but at the same time, there are pieces on both sides of the ball, primarily on the weapons on offense to a degree, and a pass rush that is dynamic and crazy good. If you have a competent front office that can build around that, okay, we might be getting somewhere. And or maybe having some guys that you can coach up. I think that the core on both sides for the Giants is young enough, especially on offense. So there's time and plenty to work with. The second option I had was the Falcons, just simply because they have a running back, wide receiver, tight end core and a potential quarterback if you can get him healthy, or use Kirk Cousins as a bridge quarterback to kind of work with, and then a pass rush that did a very underrated job, and some back seven that did okay. I mean, Atlanta is probably the second most attractive spot in terms of personnel, player personnel. And I think we were both in agreement on which team we thought was the least attractive option.
Duh.
And I'm a slur.
Let me do a Bruce Buffer. Hold on. In this depressing corner, we have our left guy, which is the Las Vegas Raiders. And for the even less attractive option, even though I probably said that before earlier, I forget because I'm Bruce Buffer and I'm old as shit, and the Raiders are also old as shit. Yep, it is the least interesting team, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, I was gonna do the slurred around like Chris Berman, like
well, back to where they came from, or so help me.
yeah. I believe that the Raiders are just. It was like Matt Hardy in the late 20 teens. He was broken, and the Raiders are still broken. It is not going to be a short process.
Hold on. Are they dead and broken? Like the Godsmack song where he's like, I'm dead and broken, and then the melody's just like den 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 den. Listen to Godsmack. I'm in my Godsmack era right now.
Oh, I think there's too many screws loose. There's a few pieces missing.
We're faceless.
The owner is definitely more than a few fries short of a Happy Meal.
He's faceless.
And their salary cap situation with having to pay Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, especially Chip Kelly,
faceless
for his remaining time.
Faceless.
For the remaining time that you have left over. It is not going to be a simple fix. And Max Crosby is also on the way out.
He will definitely be faceless if he leaves the Raiders.
Oh, Max Crosby?
Some would say dead and broken, but I would say just faceless.
I'm going to say Max Crosby, if he finds a good team to go to outside of this, outside of leaving the Raiders, I think Max Crosby could find some salvageable. I think he might be finding his way out of the salvage yard, and actually going to get refurbished into with effective parts to become a high octane machine again.
He was not a lemon. He was never a lemon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's not like it's like Max Crosby will go from the 24 hours of lemons to pretty much being primed for the 24 hours of Lamar. If you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Sure, sounds good. Let's move on.
All right. And with postseason eliminations potentially coming along, is there going to be a team that, if the situation goes left, that would change, that would have their current coach get fired?
Honestly, I think the Bills for the most part because Sean McDermott has been, I mean, yeah, he's like a younger head coach, but there were many of times where he could have been more upfront with management, and management decided to take the table scraps and even not draft Trent McDuffie, which probably could have been a pivotal cornerback for them because they had such little development in their secondary. I think they could have probably benefited from that, and then I think even then the Chiefs probably would have been good with Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams or whoever else they would have picked in their secondary because of the fact that that evolution evolved later. And yeah, L'Jarius Sneed was still with the team even when McDuffie had his best season during Super Bowl 58 era when McDuffie was kicking ass and taking names, and it didn't matter at that time because Justin Reed was also picking that up. But anyways, I digress. I think the Bills will be the one that's like okay, we're going to probably fire you because you didn't get to the championship or where we expected, and that sucks for you, but also like you had so much time to finish this out, and I don't know if McDermott is the right guy, but honestly, McDermott could also just stay there if they really believed in him, but we'll just see what happens. But my suspicion is he's probably done after this year if he doesn't get it, no matter how far they get. I mean, if they get to the championship and then lose, he'll probably get fired. But if it was like, oh, actually got to the Super Bowl and lost, like that sucks, but we want to get there. Okay.
I think McDermott's kind of on a high wire act with a limited safety net.
I want the Bills to win the Super Bowl, but it just kind of haphazard like they were uh the other day against whoever they were playing. I forgot, honestly.
I mean, I ultimately am going to say no, but I think the closest options, if front offices lose patience, would be either Mike Tomlin, just simply because Pittsburgh may choose not to renew. Because I think like Tomlin's contract is, I think his contract may be. Oh no, he just signed an extension, so he may or may not. He may or may not. But if the Rooneys lose patience, okay. But I
Okay.
think if the Bills front office loses patience with Sean McDermott, I think that also is a possibility.
All right, let's keep going. Running third.
Yep. On a lighter note here, the lights, camera, action. What we've been watching and what we've been playing.
Honestly, I'm just gonna go straight with you here. It For me, it was the Stranger Things finale. There's a lot of mixed feelings about that via the episode that kind of kickstarted the turmoil with Stranger Things. 5 was one of the characters, Will, coming out, and it took a lot of time. People didn't give a shit about it because they wanted to see what the end would really be all about. Also, I've been watching The Becoming of Led Zeppelin. I watched that doc on Netflix. It's pretty awesome. I got to see the lead singer look like a goddamn lion. He looks glorious. And in the days of my youth, I was once told to be a man. And good times and bad times, those songs still rest internally into me whenever crazy things happen, or you're just wanting to chill and you're just have that earworm, and it's just Led Zeppelin. Feels good. Um, what I've been playing, I finished the Battlefield 6 Season 1 Battle Pass. Hooray! Try hard much. Yeah, I know. It took me a while to get through it, but I also just kind of burnt of it, and hopefully, um, this next season will be good. Other than that, I've been kicking ass and taking names on Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders had me and Saul been playing it, and I fast forwarded a little bit through the quests, aka I spent way too much goddamn time playing Arc Raiders and understanding what it was and getting just engulfed into it to where I played for way too long. It says on Steam I have like 38 hours into the game, which is true by the way, but that negates the point. There's a lot of cool like quests you do on your own solo, but as a solo player, it's like it negates the fact of enemies really being a problem because most of the time you're pressing the button in proximity chat to be like friendly, 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 so that someone doesn't murder you. But if you're in a squad, you're more than likely to get your ass kicked. So I'm just kind of like I still do the friendly, friendly, but if someone like doesn't get it or they still shoot us anyways, I'll like let them know in a sense. Not like Shabuzi, but anyways, yeah, I've been doing that, and Spinnis, I'll let you take over. You'll let him know.
All right. So I have now gotten to level 99 with every character, and now I'm trying to farm Lumina to get through boss fights in Expedition 33. I've been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I've been really enjoying that game. Troy Baker does an incredible job as Indiana Jones.
I think he does a good job
Loving his-
anywhere.
Oh yeah, Troy Baker. Troy Baker is among the few actors that if I know that he is leading a game, I will have a higher inclination if I love the game, if I love the topic of the game and the theme, I will play it. I've messed around a bit with Doom the Dark Ages, Hollow Knight Silk Song, Marvel Cosmic Invasion, kind of here and there, but I've been playing a lot more Baldur's Gate 3 this week. I've been on a little more of a Dungeons and Dragons type of kick and playing Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, really, it's been like an RPG kick, especially with going with Expedition 33 and high quality RPG in that regard, to then go right into Baldur's Gate 3. So I am absolutely, I've just been on that kind of kick. I possibly am looking at some Mario Party longer term with Alex Mann down the line. Be
We will
aware of
see.
that possibility. Oh, be aware of that possibility. And that will for sure be something as well. And now we are getting ready to round third and head for home with some final sports thoughts. 3 Japanese stars have signed with MLB teams. Munetaka Murakami is now a member of the Chicago White Sox. Tatsuya Imai to the Astros. And Kazuma Okamoto to the Blue Jays. Are there any preliminary thoughts on those?
Honestly, I'm surprised that Tatsuya, or not Tatsuya, Manuteki Murakami going to the White Sox was a little surprising. I thought he would have gone to the Dodgers. Tatsuya Imi to the Astros, okay, whatever. Kazuma Okamoto to the Blue Jays, I mean, we'll see. But
I love that move.
I was more intrigued by Murakami going to the White Sox, but at the same time, I feel like he probably could have been a Dodgers like bench guy that they just put out there to hit. But at the same time, maybe, just maybe, taking over Max Muncy or whoever's at first's job, and maybe Freddie Freeman goes to third. Who knows? But honestly, that was just the meme that everybody wanted, was Murakami to the Dodgers, but good things going for them.
Yeah.
And
The Murakami move, I think, as a player, it may be something. It's very difficult as a team to kind of see where that goes. The one I love the most out of the bunch was the Okamoto move, because that now deepens the Blue Jays at corner infield. Tua Tagovailoa says that it would be dope to have a fresh start in 2026, likely with a new team after being benched the final 3 games of the season. Is there going to be a team that would take a flyer on him?
I think that man needs to go sit on a lazy boy and just reflect on life. Not even kidding.
I believe that there will be a team that will.
Oh, trust me, there will. He'll be the guy that comes off the lazy boy and is like, yeah, I could still do it, and then turns the ball over.
Well, I think the few teams that I could see potentially taking that flyer on him and maybe possibly doing something with it. Vegas would be a possibility, but it would be difficult, especially because they have the number 1 overall pick. I think Arizona also having a high draft pick. The problem is that a lot of the teams that I thought would take a flyer on him have high draft picks. Matt Eberflus, Cliff Kingsbury, and Joe Witt have been fired from the Cowboys and Commanders, respectively. Any thoughts on your end?
I figured Eberflus would have learned from his mistakes, but apparently not. But also, it's Jerry Jones's world that is responsible for Eberflus's probably cosmic demise, even though Eberflus probably deserved it anyways, because in reality, the team that I had for the Bears that went to the Super Bowl probably should have never been there at all, and it should have been flushed away. Cliff Kingsbury, on the other hand, I feel like maybe he was misunderstood, but at the same time, it's like, okay, he's been like the scapegoat in a sense where, yeah, he probably sucked at Arizona as the offensive coordinator, and then the Commanders were like, you know what, we'll let you know if that works with Dan Quinn, and obviously it apparently didn't. I have no thoughts on Joe Witt, though. I don't know who that is.
Joe Witt was the former defensive coordinator who lost his play calling responsibility and now has since been fired. I think that Joe Witt definitely was you had to go. I think that the DQ philosophy and Joe Witt just did not mix. And I think that's a lot of what Cliff Kingsbury ultimately ended up being as well. That I just don't think it mixed.
Yeah.
And then Eberflus. Hey, Eberflus, I heard you like to eat corn the long way. You bum. Shout out Trash Turds.
Also, no one heard you because of the Windy City.
What's the matter with Eberflus? He's a bum.
Whisper, whisper, wind. Whisper, wind. Whisper, wind.
And on that note, that'll do it for episode number 169 of Ruckus and the Menace. I'm Spennis the Menace.
And I am Ruckus, always custom Ruckus. Make sure to keep listening to our podcast and watching it in the background or whatever you do in your life. Listen to us, please. For the love of God, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like the channel. Also, if you want to subscribe to our Spotify, it's the same stuff, just different network, and that'll help us grow a little bit on there too. But other than that, this is episode 169. Nice. I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus, and I continue to until Spennis corrects me. Go ahead, Spennis.
And until the next one, hugs and hand pounds, everybody.
Deuces.